HUBC so you can understand what I'm looking at when I'm day trading, why I'm entering or exiting a position at a certain time. So basically, this name came across my desk early in the morning after I woke up a little bit late, and there's someone who I follow on X and StockTwits called Stock Catcher, who posts a lot of the tickers that are taken off in the morning, having huge percentage gains, have huge news catalysts. And I basically go and I take a look at everything that he's sharing, and I make a list over here for the day's day trades. And then I search them by change percentage, and I make a list, and I basically go and I start looking at like the top 8 to see what's going on. And I'd identified HUBC's chart as one that looked very bullish to me in the morning for a few reasons. So this is the 200 SMA. This is a 20 SMA that I'm using. And then I'm also using a 2 SMA. And then right here we have VWAP. So everything was above all of that, okay? And when I saw this chart, I didn't get it in here, unfortunately, but I saw it somewhere up around in here, okay? And the first thing I do is I set some trend lines. So wherever I'm seeing price topping out at, I set a trend line and I just let it run. And then I do the same thing on the bottom. I set a trend line and I let it go. Now in the morning, I probably would have had a trend line that was touching here, here, and here, okay? But at some point, that trend line broke here and came down. So that's when I probably moved it over and used this as support, and then these smaller kind of inner moves as support or resistance. So I'd alerted the Discord that I'm in that I was going to be trading this today right here as price was pulling back. Okay. Now, I'm not quite confident enough at the moment to be sharing my entries on stocks like this, because if price flips the opposite side and there's a 25% loss, I don't want you guys to get stuck in that. So right now, I'm trading with small amounts of money. This was 4,000 shares, which was about $1,000+ just that way that I'm limiting my risk. It obviously caps my upside a little bit, but if something goes wrong, I'm not losing a lot of money either. So one of the main things I do when I'm trading is I'm always trading within my trend lines, my trend channels, okay? As long as price is respecting the trend channels as support, I'm interested in buying. If this comes down, I don't want to touch it, only if it supports this, right? And when I'm selling when price is hitting the top of trend channels. So as you can see, the price moved up, came down, curved, and one of the most important indicators that I'm using at the moment is this 2 SMA set to open. So if price moves above this while it's also within a trend channel, and then all my other indicators look bullish, I will enter the trade. So one of the things that I'm looking for over here is the MACD. I want to see these lines crossing on the MACD, which you can see we got right here. I'm also using this indicator. So this indicator is the Chill Momentum Elite, which you can get by joining Chill's Discord. He makes custom indicators, really great ones. So if you join his Discord, you can have access to this. This is the THT Multi-Timeframe BX, which is from another guy's Discord called Peter DiCarlo, who shares a lot of great stuff. His this particular indicator, you can take like a class for free, and you can get this indicator for free. And then this is obviously an RSI, and then I'm using the Williams percentage R indicator down here that I learned about from another Discord that I used to be in. So basically, price comes down, it respects my bottom trend line support. Price flips over the 2 SMA. We've got a cross of the MACD bouncing off the middle line. this is starting to flip from big red lines to small red lines. We get a green dot, which means it's going to go up price. The RSI doesn't quite matter for me when getting in trades. It doesn't need to be low or in a certain spot. And then the other thing is the Willie. I like when the Willie comes all the way down here. And when everything starts to push up, you see this is up, up. This is moving up, crossing and moving up. That's what I like. So that happened. I clicked to buy my order. I got filled a little bit late, which is why I'm up here versus down here somewhere. But I got into the trade. Price flipped a little bit and went under my 2 SMA, which is a signal for me to potentially sell. But because we had just found supports and everything was pushing up, I didn't have any fear about selling. So I just stayed into the trade and I let this ride. And this is typically what happens when these big gainers or stocks start moving in the morning or earnings or whatever it is. This is the setup you see. You see these big push, whereas you can see I've got my resistance. This is where I got out of the trade. Right up in here, I got out. And then what do you know? We have this curling over. Crosses, we're oversold. This is starting to push down, okay? The purple and yellow line cross. We get a red dot here, which typically means price is going to start coming down, okay? So that's exactly what happened. And then what I do is I set a trend line at the top on all the parts where it hits as resistance. Because I don't want to be in the trade underneath this. I want to be in the trade over this. Over the 2 SMA, over support, over resistance. That's where I want to get in. So this whole part right here, I just waited. In the past, I would try to short this and everything, but it's just a lot easier to stick with one direction when you're trading. You're either, buying long or you're shorting. So I waited for this. It broke trend. I was like, oh crap, that doesn't look good. Glad I'm out, The other thing I do is I set trend lines, horizontal ones. So when we have these key topping spots here, I'll set a trend line that goes across. And as you can see, this came down and acted as support. Did the same thing here, put it up here. And as you can see, when it started to push up, it acted as resistance. And all these indicators were starting to move back up from this last little push it had. My position and support is being respected and everything is moving up. I stay in the trade. So how did I know to take profits up here, which is where I sold? Okay. Well, I also used a 10-second chart over here. So this is on a 1 minute time frame. This is on a 10-second time frame. And what I do over here is I'll also set trend lines on the smaller moves. So as you can see, as this price was moving up here, I came over here and I put a real thin gray trend line to let me know where this is finding support. So I knew that when price came up here and hit this resistance bar, it was probably the top. And I also knew that once it would break this support, it was pretty much confirmed that the top was in and we were going to reverse. So, I stayed in this as long as it was over the 2 SMA. And when this flipped to red up in here, which was probably in this area, I exited the trade. So, and I don't worry about, if I miss out, if it pushes back up or whatever. Like, as long as I stick to my process, buying on support, selling on resistance, when it flips over the 2 SMA, I'm happy with the trade. So then, as you can see, price pushed down. So I set another trend line for resistance, and price came up. This is the move you want. This big move up here, that's what you want. When all this starts getting lost and you start going sideways, and the MACD, see these big moves here? Like, you want these. This is what you want to be trading. You want to be buying, buying, selling. When you start getting into this, where the MACD is like moving along the center line, those trades aren't really worth taking because they're really risky. Because right now, price is deciding which way it's going to go. So as you can see, as this pushed up, I bought here, I scalped out over here, but it's not something that I typically want to be doing. And as you can see, price was kind of moving around. So basically, without looking at the rest of the chart and all the other trades, you can clearly see kind of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And this strategy is really easy and it works across any stock. The most important thing when doing this is really to find something that is super bullish at the moment, that a lot of people are trading, that has a lot of momentum going into it, and you really want to try to get in as early as you can. Because if you get in here, you could just buy it and set a stop loss and let this thing go. And sometimes the price goes even higher. And you don't have to like mess around with buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling, right? But yeah, so that's how I day traded this one, and I made about $900 on the day, and it was about a 45% gain overall for me. So I had this 40% gain, I had a 53% gain, I had a 6% gain. Then I had some small stuff in here, some little wins, little losses, but ultimately I stopped trading over here because the risk is a lot higher than the reward. Again, you want these big moves are what you want. You want to kind of stay out of this stuff. So yeah, so hopefully that helps you guys. If you have any questions about what I did, why I did it, how I did it, feel free to let me know.